Hi there. Welcome to the first episode of Sea Lawyer Station. My name is Jose Mallari. I will be joined today by Mayor Arvin Amatorio of Bergenfield, New Jersey. He and I will discuss U.S. immigration, local politics, and President Rodrigo Duterte. So, grab a bag of popcorn, pour yourself a drink, sit back, and enjoy. Let me introduce my guest for today, Arvin Amatorio. He's the sitting mayor of Bergenfield Borough in New Jersey. He's also an immigration law practitioner. He recently graduated from Harvard, but for him, he just wants to be addressed as an ordinary public servant. So, in this podcast, I would like you to know him more personally as a public servant, a father, a husband. So, let's get to it. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, I'm very grateful that you agreed to join me in my first episode. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Jose. What you want me to call you, JR, Jose, or
Jose is fine.
Jose? Thank you very much. You know, it's a great honor. So I want to greet our fellow Americans, fellow Filipino Americans that are watching here. It's been a great honor, and I know that you have tons of questions that you want to find out. A lot of things about immigration law, local politics in the U.S., and also in the Philippines. And let's go.
So can we start with just a high-level, brief life story, if you would, from the time you were born until the present day?
Well, it's a long story because we're getting older, right? So we've done a lot of things in our lives, but simply I was born in Baler, Aurora, in the Philippines.
Question: is that the capital, and is that where the President Quezon was born?
Yes, that's the same birthplace of Manuel Quezon. It's also the birthplace of former Senate President Edgardo Angara. It's a small town in Baler, but it's becoming more prominent nowadays because of tourism and surfing in the Philippines. Yes, I was born there. I grew up in Baler and went to Manila to study economics and also studied law in the Philippines. And then I immigrated here in the United States more than 20 years ago. Started in Manhattan, took the bar exam here and became a New York lawyer. Went to Bergenfield for after a few years in New York, and this is where I found my calling. As a public servant, want to give back to my community that gave me a good start. So I raised my family here. I have two kids. Named Lance and Andrew, and I'm so blessed that I married the love of my life. As a matter of fact, from the Philippines, it started way back in the Philippines. My then girlfriend, she went here to the United States to attend the seminar in the United Nations. So when she decided to stay here, I couldn't, thought of not being her my wife. So I followed her in the U.S. and the rest is history.
That's awesome. It's a good story. Now, when did you start your law office, your law practice? Or did you start it immediately after passing the bar?
I became an attorney way back in 2006, and then I joined a law practice. It started in immigration. That's my first practice as an attorney, and then I went to a personal injury law firm when we represented claims, vehicular accident, different kinds of torts claims. So I litigated for a couple of years before I decided to open up my own practice in New York and eventually here in New Jersey at the same time.
That's good. So I understand your license is in New York, so that's where you started practicing law.
Yes. So I have I'm a New York attorney. I'm admitted to practice in the Southern District of New York and Eastern District of New York. And of course, as being a federal law, so I can practice immigration law nationwide.
Did you or do you travel out of state to appear in court, in federal court, or at least meet clients? Do you do that?
Yeah, yes. I've appeared in several immigration courts nationwide: Chicago, Los Angeles, Indianapolis. Of course, New York, New Jersey. So yeah, I've been in Texas. So I've been to different immigration courts nationwide, and also I've appeared in different district courts nationwide on the basis of pro hac vice representation.
So, in your law firm, how many lawyers work there, or is it just you?
So I have some. I work with few attorneys here in my law firm. It's a small law firm, but we have attorneys that work with me, and we have staff also. So most of our clients are corporate clients. We also cater to individual clients, but I would say 80% or 85% of my practice, I'm dealing with corporate accounts.
So, what kind of legal services does your firm provide?
So we are a full immigration law firm. I do a lot of employment-based petitions. I also do removal and represent removal and deportations. I have family-based practice as well. So anything that's immigration, we help them.
So, do you accept clients from foreign countries who want to immigrate or have plans of immigrating to the U.S.?
Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, almost I would say more than 90% of our clients are foreign born.
Oh, good.
Yes.
No, I mean also located presently in foreign countries. You still accept those, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, for the benefit of our viewers, what is a good or easy contact information you can share with them so that if any of our viewers from the foreign countries would like to avail of your service, how can they contact you?
So we have a website, amatoriolaw.com, so they can send their inquiries. We have a contact form that they can send. They can email us. Everything is in our website. The good thing is we do a lot of because of the technology. So I interact with my clients both nationwide, domestic U.S. and foreign, and abroad through Zoom, through phone conferences. So we just pick the time and I interact with them through our technology. So this makes our communication a lot easier.
Okay, a few minutes ago you mentioned your wife, your the love of your life. Now, do both of you have kids?
Yes, we have two boys. One is 18-year-old and the other one is 8-year-old.
So, I'm a father myself, so I understand the time demands of being a father, being a working person. How do you manage your time every day as mayor, as an immigration lawyer, as a husband, as a father?
Well, I know there's a lot of work or tons of work to be done, but really it's a matter of balancing your work. I still manage to bring my we are I live in this community in Bergenfield.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when my son wasn't driving yet at that time, I managed to drive him to school every day, and even though there are other alternatives, I made it a point when he was growing that I devote my time, an hour of my time at least daily to my kids, especially in the morning, because that's the time that you are able to talk to him about, what's your plan for the day, what have you done yesterday. So he, when we, I love it because when we are in the car, he's a captured audience, right? So we have the time to bond, that and talk to him and really talk as father and son. Now that he's grown up and he drives by himself, I'm raising another one, another 8-year-old, and I do that to him. I walk him to school, I talk to him. So I think this is a very important bonding that I have with him, despite our busy schedule. So after that, after I brought them to school, now it's my time for me to read my emails, plan my work for the day, check my calendar. So I could, so I would make sure that I'm able to fulfill my duty in my office work, and at the same time my job as public servant here in my town.
So, do your kids understand or at least speak or at least understand the Filipino language?
They have they can speak little. They understand the language. It's very difficult to impose, because they're in a they are always with their classmates. They talk English, but they understand the importance of the language. But one thing I'm proud of my kids is they know the Filipino culture, and every summer they're looking forward to visit the Philippines, because they are regular visitors of the Philippines. They've been there more than 10 times, 11 times. So they know.
That's good.
Yes.
That's good. Good. Thank you. Now, let's focus now on your immigration practice. What is the predominant legal issue among your clients?
There are like my practice in immigration. They are a lot of them are coming from the Philippines, so there's really no issue in terms of domestic, right? Because they were waiting for their petitions to be approved, and then once they are here, so they're good, right? The only right now the challenge is I don't know if you're familiar with the word retrogression. Is a technical term wherein there are so many applicants that to come to the United States as a permanent resident than the available visas. So therefore there is a backlog, right? So there are more demands than what visas are available. So they have to wait. So when you apply for a permanent resident, say a green card, right? The common term is green card. So right now there is what you call.
Why do they call it green card?
It's a misnomer, right? The when you call it, because before it's called the card is green.
I got it. Okay.
But the truth is, if you're saying a green card holder, that means you're a permanent resident.
Got it.
So that's the term is a lawful permanent resident of the United States.
Yeah.
But you hold the green card.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So that's why it's called a green card holder.
Okay.
So going back, there are a lot of applicants for to become a permanent resident than the available visa. So they have to wait.
Yeah.
They have to wait for their visas to become available. And nurses, or other employment-based applicants, they have to wait about 3 to 4 years for them to be able to immigrate here. So that is the challenge, right? The waiting period. The preference category is worse, because, for instance, you have a brother, you're a U.S. citizen, and you have a brother that you want to petition, you gotta wait for 20 years, right? Or if you are a U.S. citizen and you want to file a petition for your son or daughter that's 21 years old and over, you're going to wait for like almost 10 years or 10 years. So those are the challenge of preference category. The waiting. Now, if you are here in the United States, one of the biggest challenges is maintaining your status. So to keep you from becoming unlawfully present. So if you become unlawfully present, which is in our local term, yung TNT, tago ng tago, then because of the strict implementation of immigration law nowadays, so the challenge is how you would be able to perform or do your things regularly, because let's say you want to work there, you can look for your employment authorization, you want to apply for a driver's license, they want your immigration documents to be valid. So these are the challenges, right? So the strict implementation of the immigration law.
Question. Can you give us an example of someone whose status, you mentioned status, some of our viewers might not understand that term. I think it's common in the US, but for a foreigner, or from a person in a foreign country, what is the status? What does that mean? So if you could give like an example so that what happens, how does a person get status and change status and all that, or expired status, whatever.
So when you say what's your status here or what's your immigration status, it means your legal paper as an immigrant.
Okay.
Right? There are two kinds of immigrants, whether you're your lawful immigrant, which is you're a permanent resident, or you are a non-immigrant, meaning that you are here on a temporary stay. For instance, you are on a working visa. A working visa is usually issued for 3 years. Or you are a tourist, you have a tourist visa. So your status is being a tourist visa. So when you have a non-immigrant visa, or your status is being a non-immigrant, the expectation is that at the end of the term, or when you fulfill your goal as a working visa holder or as a tourist, that you are going to go back to the native country where you come from, right? So that's it. So your status is non-immigrant. Now, if your status is immigrant, permanent resident, then you can stay here legally in the United States. So now, if you are neither of the two, whether you're a lawful permanent resident or you're in the lawful non-immigrant status, then you are what you call the Tagon and Tago, or the TNT, right? And you are those group of residents here in the United States that are being now pursued by the current administration. That either you self-deport or that you will be pursued to be deported by the current administration. And according to reports, right now the numbers of being out of status, or being of immigrant without proper documentation, they said it's hard to have a specific number, but it could range between 13 to 15 million. So that's a lot.
Can a non-immigrant earn income or earn money on the side while in the United States? For example, a tourist is visiting, but then okay, I want to take a break. I'm gonna stay at my cousin's house for now, for a month. I'm gonna relax. But then someone calls him, hey, I need to go out of state, or I need to go out of the country. Can you babysit my kids? Can the non-immigrant babysit for pay?
Well, it's a good question, because sometimes, say, I just want to help, and since they're so kind to me, so I want to help them, and then they give me money. So it's a very tricky situation, right? But the rule is, you need to have a work permit for you to be able to work. So work permit means you have a working visa, or an H1B, or you are in an L1, or you are in J1 that you're allowed to work, or even if you're F1 as long as your work authorization. So there are different categories, non-immigrant, that are allowed to work. Unfortunately, the B1, B2 visa, which is what we call known as the tourist visa, this is a visa category that is not allowed to work. So if you are in a tourist visa, you cannot engage in gainful employment. So now your question is, well, but can I babysit and get paid? The strict answer is no. But of course, sometimes you can say, it's just a gift. I help her, and in return, she or he gave me the money. So, do you consider that as work? That's debatable, right? So you could say, that's one time So it's not what you consider gainful employment. So it's just an exchange of being kind. But if you are doing it like a pattern, right? Oh, I'm babysitting for this couple 3 days a week, 5 days a week regularly, and you expect to be paid, then it's what you call gainful employment, or you are already engaging to employment. It's different when you say, oh, can you help me? And then you help, and then, oh, no, this is the money for doing this, but as a token of gratitude, I don't think it's considered employment itself per se, right? So in short, if you really assess, are you allowed to work as a tourist visa holder? Plain answer is no. That's the plain answer.
So since the answer is no, does that mean if immigration officers find out that non-immigrant could get in trouble, legal trouble with the immigration?
Absolutely. So you risk getting apprehended if the ICE learned about it, or if the immigration officer found out that you are working, they can revoke your stay and cancel your visa, even if they don't find out at the time you're working, but by the time you're entering again. So I'll give you an example. You come here in the United States, usually you're given 6 months stay, right?
Yes.
On your I-94. So when you work, you came here and you maximize your 6 months, and then you travel back to your country of origin, and then you stay there for like 2-3 months because you have a multiple entry visa, and you travel back here again for another 6 months, and then you went back again. The next time you come back here, you are raising suspicion. So the immigration officer, you're already working. There's no way you're, and then if the officer asks you where you're staying, in Jersey, did you travel to other states? No. So if you want to be a tourist in the United States, and you're staying here for maximizing your, and then you don't travel to other states, there is already, it raises suspicions that you are already working for someone, right? So now, if you are referred to another second inspection, because the immigration officer, they have brief interactions, right? Because there are people in line.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are referred for secondary inspection, that's interrogation already. They're gonna check your luggage, they're gonna check your documents, they're gonna ask for your phone, right? And now they will find out that you are communicating with somebody. I'm coming, I'm working with this one, and then they open up. It's funny because I have some clients, or I have some interactions that when they open the luggage, they still see resume. Where in fact you can send your resume digitally, right? So, but still people make mistakes, or they have they bring their digital. Even their digital copy of their documents, or sometimes they see the transcript of records. So it happened, and I'm not kidding. So this is an obvious violation of your intent, that you wanted to come here in the United States as a tourist visa holder, but you have the intent to work. So they're saying you misrepresent yourself in entering the United States.
I've heard that immigration officers have discretion, and since they have discretion, but they are also human beings who can make mistakes.
Right.
So, can the tourist appeal the immigration officer's decision?
Well, you know what? It's different when you're entering. When you are here already in the United States and you're being deported, of course, in most likelihood, you will be appearing before a judge. But when you are seeking admission, since you are at the border, you don't have rights yet, right? So if they decided to reject or deny your admission, there is what you call the A to A, airport to airport. So there is deportation right away. You go to the next flight back to where you come from, if you're coming from the Philippines and then you go back to the Philippines without stepping foot to the United States. So that's what you call, you are summarily deported, which means the implication of that is you will be barred to come to the United States for 10 years, at least. Or sometimes they offer you to withdraw your admission. You sign a paper that you are withdrawing, that you seek admission, so per the record, you are not deported. And then, although it's still a little bit difficult, but it's a lot easier to come back here not being deported than being deported. So these are the legal implications that, I think the public should know.
Now, you say the unadmitted or an applicant for admission doesn't have rights yet. Are you saying that applicant does not have rights to a lawyer yet?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, because you are not admitted yet. So denial of admission is not appealable.
Okay.
Right? It's different again when you already when you set foot in the United States. Now you are already entitled to representation, because you cannot just summarily deported. They cannot just grab you and throw you in the plane. I know there's a lot of issues that are out there, but we can go there in a moment. But we're talking about the regular deportation proceedings wherein every as per the law, right? I'm talking of the law.
Right.
I'm not talking about what the administration or any other immigration officials may have done before or are currently doing. But the protection of the law is that before you are removed from the United States, that you are given due process.
Good. That's good information. Thank you, Mayor. Now, what are the most complicated cases you've handled so far, and which one are most expensive?
Wow. There's a lot of complicated cases. You've got cases. I've had cases that the best advice is convince your client to remove himself. Especially when you deal with people that try to enter the United States a lot of times under different names and concealing their former criminal activities. Right? I've got people who crossed the border a couple of times under different names to hide their conviction. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And when they're apprehended, they said, that he is a changed person, that he is no longer that person from 20 years ago. Unfortunately, there's no expiration with your criminal record. If you have a person that has been convicted and served federal facility for drug dealing after entering the border without inspection or after using a different name, right? So, and then now they're living with their family, I would agree, a changed man. But unfortunately, your past is your past. So those are complicated cases, That there is a person that you saw maybe have changed, maybe now living with the family, but the past transgression haunts them back. And unfortunately, they have to deal with the past mistakes, right? So those are complicated cases on my part. It's easy to say, just go, just self-deport. But at the end of the day, here's the person who say, you see their kids, you see their family, they're giving back to the community, but for the past. So those, I think, of course it's easy decision to say, if the person is not changed, we don't want those people. Right. I mean, everybody agrees that I think in my conversation with both Democrats and Republicans in politics, at least in my circle, because there are so many of them. But everybody is agreeing that bad people has to go. But should they be entitled to due process? Of course, everybody's entitled to due process, right? Whether the person is bad or good, right? Because that's the only way to test whether they're really bad. Because you could look bad, but you're not really bad, right? So you have to test the process. And we are, we are a nation of law. We're not nations of men, right? Because men have different perceptions, men have different convictions, but the law is consistent. That's why we have to uphold the rule of law. That's my perception. That's my opinion. And I think, but the goal of protecting our border and sending bad people, away from the United States, I think everybody agrees with that.
Okay. So, just so prospective clients may prepare financially, what is the most expensive case so far, based on your experience?
Well, expensive is subjective, Jose, no? It depends on, of course, it depends on whose immigration attorney you're talking about. You have, if you're dealing with high-powered immigration attorney, because of their name, you'll be talking about 50,000 to 100,000 worth of case. The same case that goes to this attorney could be 10,000 to 15,000, right? How's the quality? Could be the same, because they probably be handled by the same good people. They got the name, but the people that work with them are the same people that are probably working with my firm, right? But because they have a name, it's like driving a different brand of car. The difference is there is luxury in the other car because it's convenience, it's comfort, but of course, are you certainly be able to achieve your goal of reaching your destination? Absolutely, right? So all the same, it depends on what kind of firm you're hiring.
Yeah, thank you. Now, you mentioned various administration. Let me ask you, in this current administration, Trump's second term, what do you think is the biggest challenge in U.S. immigration that this administration is facing?
I think the biggest challenge of this administration is facing is the fact that his goal might not coincide with reality. And I say that, with all due respect, okay? Because they want to deport, if they want to deport the 11 million or the 13 million so people, because they don't have the proper documentation. The question here is logistics, number one. So for them to be able to do that, they're gonna throw away a whole lot of due process, right? Because number one, for you to be able to deport those alleged undocumented immigrants, you gotta bring them to deportation proceedings. Like what I've said, it's not good for them to just grab them and throw them in the airplane and deport them. Under the rule and under the law, they are entitled to process. They are entitled to a day in court wherein they were gonna face the immigration court and prove themselves that they are not deportable. If the judge says no, you should be deported, then that's the only time they should be deported. But imagine logistically, how are you able to do that with the amount of immigration courts available, with the amount of immigration agents that are available, with the amount of money allotted by Congress. So there is a logistical impossibility unless, as I've said, you break the law. And that's why and it's all over, that a lot of times the Trump administration has been hampered by TROs from the district courts, not just liberal or Democratic appointed judges, but even judges that he appointed himself that are known conservative. So that's, I think, the biggest challenge that this administration is facing. How to reach the goal that they want, with the impossibility of logistics, of money and resources. Now, can he stop crossing the border? Yes. I think, to give credit to the Trump administration, they are successful in doing that, which in my humble opinion, that should have been done by the previous administration, right? Now that I agree that the border is a national security issue. It's not just a humanitarian, it's not just an immigration issue, but it's a national security issue. As a student of national security, I understand that there is a big hole in vetting these people coming into the United States. And the Trump administration was or is successful in preventing this right now.
So it's not unbelievable that he's saying Trump's administration was able to reduce illegal crossing at the border by 99%.
I don't know the statistics,
okay,
because I don't have it right now.
Okay.
But I would say it's a turnaround of how successful they sealed the border. I don't know what kind of crossings are happening, because there are tunnels, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least in a optics wise,
mm-hmm,
we know that a lot of border crossings has been stopped because they sealed the border, and that's why when I was talking to my fellow Democrats,
mm-hmm,
I said that shouldn't be a political issue. The border shouldn't be a political issue.
mm-hmm.
Democrats should have supported that. Democrats should have done that, because, as I've said, those borders are the vulnerabilities of our country in terms of the drugs that are coming in. Remember, the fentanyl coming from China, manufactured in Mexico, are entering the United States, and hundreds of thousands of our young kids and families are ruined by fentanyl drugs. They all come from the United States, from the borders in Mexico. A little portion comes from Canada, but most of these are getting in through the southern border. So the big problem here is not just the human smuggling, not just the human trafficking, but the entrance of illegal drugs. And some terrorists slip into the crack from the southern border. So if you look at the situation, it's not just immigration problem. It's national security, it's drug problems, and all that. But on the other hand, on the reverse, the guns, illegal guns going to Mexico, a big chunk of them come from the United States. So they export drugs, we export guns. So the reason why the Mexican cartel and guns,
mm-hmm,
we arm them. So that's why Mexico is saying, okay, we're gonna help we're gonna help curb the illegal drugs, but help us curb the entry of illegal guns from the United States to Mexico.
Correct, I agree. So, in your opinion, why did the previous administration fail to do what this current administration is doing?
Well, it's a good question, and I can tell you I don't know the answer, but what I'm saying is, there is a perception that the Democrats are accepting, the immigrants. And I'm for that as a Democratic mayor, as an immigrant myself. This is Bergenfield is a welcoming community. We are a very diverse community. A lot of Asians, particularly Filipinos. We, about 24-25% here are Latinos as well. We have more than 30% are Caucasian. We have a sizable number of Orthodox Jews. We have sizable number of Muslim in our community from Bangladesh, from Pakistan, and from the Middle East. So we are a diverse, welcoming community, but we believe in laws. We believe in the proper immigration. As an immigration attorney myself, I try to help people come here legally because it's very difficult to stay here and live in the shadows. There are obviously some people that fell into the crack. They lose their status, not of their own mistakes. They try to follow the rules, they try to follow the law, but the immigration law is archaic. If you are a working visa holder, or if you're an immigrant applicant and you're here in the United States, sometimes you lose your status because of the neglect of your employee. But what happens is, if you are here already, bring your families working here, you lose your ties to the Philippines, sold your property, you have nowhere to go back to, or nothing to go back to. It's not easy to just go back because you lose your status. So you try to blend with the system, without legal immigration. So those people that are paying their taxes, they're here following the law, performing an important duty in our community, helping the community. I think we should be able to help those people to at least be able to obtain back their status, because they try to go into the system. They fall in line, they went into the system, but for their mistakes. There are those people who cross the border, right?
Yeah.
Just didn't want to go into the system. We have an issue with that. But also we have those people that cross the border because they run away from the persecutions in their country, and they are lawfully applying for asylum, or they're seeking refuge to the United States. And we should be able to process them quickly so that we know who are those people that are legitimately claiming persecution, and those who are just trying to I would say exploit the vulnerabilities of the immigration law.
Okay, further exploring the illegal crossing, based on what you've seen or what you've heard, what's the difference in enforcement of border enforcement between this administration and the previous administration? They're saying, you yourself mentioned, we've done, looks like the current administration is doing a better job than the previous one. What is the difference? What do you mean by better, and how, based on what you've heard or maybe what you know?
Well, like what I've said, prior to the Trump administration, right? The second Trump, this administration,
right?
In 2020, and just give you I just want to give you some points to ponder, right? In 2024, or in either in 2023 and 2022, at least in those 2 years, the border crossing that came in, the interactions at the border is about 2.2 million each year. Imagine that. Those people who tried to cross the border in 23 and 24 or 22 reached up to a level of 2.2 million, not vetted.
Why not?
Because they you see those pictures, like they're walking like in a caravan,
Yeah.
from Central America. They walk
Like
through the
going
streets
to
of Mexico.
with a picnic.
They have their backpack, their kids,
Uh-huh.
and they appeared themselves at the border, and they say, you know, we're seeking asylum,
Okay.
right? So each day the arrival is like 5,000, 7,000. Can you imagine that? And you don't know these people.
Right.
So since they prior to the first Trump administration, we have what we call the Remain in Mexico, right? Where when you appeared at the border, they wouldn't let you in right away. You remain in Mexico, their border. They have tents and everything.
Yeah.
And then you fill in your application and you're looking for you're seeking asylum, and then they look at your records. If you're okay initially, you're gonna let in and continue your asylum application.
Okay.
That didn't happen in the Biden administration. Abandoned that
Why?
because there were, obviously they said there were abuses on the border. You know, during that time they saw the condition of the people, a very bad condition in those areas. So the human rights activists, or the progressive part of the Democratic Party, pushed for Biden to remove those tents and let them in.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have immigration judges to hear all these cases,
Right.
asylum cases. So what happened was, if you're entering the United States, what's your name? Jose Mallari, right?
Yeah.
Do you have relatives here? No. So what are you gonna do? Go. So you put your name, you put your address. There's one, and then you get your phone number. Do you have relatives here? Yes. Also, they got the names of the relative. So where are you gonna go? I'm going to New York. With him. They get the address.
Yeah.
So you will have we will call you to report to Newark's office, for instance. That never happens.
Okay.
So they're all here. So what happened was, when at the peak of those caravan, the border state, like in Texas, right?
Yeah.
So Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis of Florida, they bus them to New York, or they charter a plane and dump them in Boston, in San Francisco, and in New York. So you have hundreds of thousands on the street of Times Square in New York. You have people from other countries that don't know where to go because the border state in Texas dumped them there. So the New York City, what are we gonna do with these people? So they have to hire, or they have to rent a hotel and house these people.
That's the one
They feed them. They give them a cell phone so that they, whenever they have immigration hearing, they gotta be contacted. So now you are feeding, you are housing, you are, I would say, babying these illegal immigrants. If you are sick, Jose, you cannot even get a benefit from the government because your pension or your salary is big enough for you to be able to be entitled to this. That was the problem, and that is the problem that was attributed to the Democratic Party. That's why we have this kind of election.
Thank you. That was great information.
And I was against it. I criticized it, but I'm just a small town mayor.
Right.
But as an immigration attorney, I understand why the American people is angry.
Right. I agree. And thank you. That was very helpful because people like me, I'm neutral. I don't side with, I try to be impartial. I don't side with the Democrats or Republicans. I try to be neutral as best as I can, but I hear a lot of Democrats, not all, they're saying Trump is lying. Elon Musk is making up that hotel stuff. And those number statistics, those are fake news. So, and I'm glad you explained it. Now people know and have an idea.
Yeah, there's truth to that. But don't get me wrong. I'm not saying the fault is entirely the Democratic.
Right.
Because this problem has been going on and on for years. That's why, in my opinion, this shouldn't be a political issue. This is a national security issue. This is a problem of the United States. It just so happened that it got worse with the time of Biden.
Okay.
And if you remember, at the last portion of the Biden presidency, they tried to curb that problem and became more stricter. They limit the number of asylum seekers at the end, but it's too late to hear, right? But that's portion I could attribute the mistake of the Democratic Party, right? On the national level.
Right.
But there's a whole lot of programs that the Democratic Party, in my opinion, I'm not trying to be political here, that are very good and welcoming for the immigrants.
Definitely.
That I thought that that the Republicans are not supporting. So both parties have blood in our immigration system, because there are so many programs. Remember, there was a bipartisan law that the Democrats and the Republicans are trying to pass that should have passed, but then when Donald Trump is running for president, he told the Republican Congress and Senate not to pass the bill. That's why there was no bipartisan bill. So in my opinion, they contributed to that problem too. So that's why I'm saying, when politics get into the immigration problem, it's hard to accomplish things.
Almost in any issue.
Right?
Yeah.
It's hard to accomplish things because when it becomes political, nobody wants to touch it.
Right. Right. So now we are like right now the times are, or as you know, social media is being used almost multiple times per day by a lot of people. What do you think is the role of social media in shaping the narrative on immigration?
Well, social media, it plays a big factor, not just, if I may say, not just in immigration, but in all issues that pertains to, to our community nowadays and to our society. Social media is very good at disseminating information quickly, because everyone has a phone. Everybody is on TikTok, on Reels, on Facebook, on Instagram. So a lot of times, and according to statistics, a lot of our community, or worldwide, we rely on social media for our information and news, and that's good, because you wanna know something, you wanna say something, you say it in social media, it reaches a whole wide of network and audience. But at the same time, the vulnerabilities of social media is the prevalence of fake news. And there have been study and evidence that social media has molded public opinion and policy based on wrong information. At one point, we went back to how social media impacted the election of, for instance, of Donald Trump during his first administration. It was proven, and I'm not trying to be political. It was proven, as commented by our national security team, that the Russians cyber team tried to infiltrate it and impacted the U.S. election by feeding wrong information, right? The same happened during the time of the presidency of Rodrigo Duterte in the Philippines in 2016. Social media played a big role in shaping the the opinion of the public. As of now, you have a lot of information that comes out on social media that are half truth or no truth at all, and we have a lot of people that believe them. So it's good and bad at the same time.
Do you have an example of what you think or have proven as fake news?
Oh, a lot. I mean, like
Just one's fine.
For instance, I would say I saw the other day that example, just this morning when I opened my mobile device, it says that for instance in the Philippines, right, that the demands of the attorney of Duterte has been rejected.
Mhm.
And then when the guy was interviewed, I forgot his name, Attorney Kaufman.
Yeah.
Yes, that there's no truth to that,
Mhm.
right? So we've never asked anything, and more so that our requests have been denied. So those are all totally fake. In the United States, it's true also, right? There are similar situations that Elon Musk do this or that have done this.
Mhm.
That's not true. So I'm sure all of us, experience this. So that's why when I see these things, and it's really something that shocks the conscience, or maybe not true, don't believe right away. Check on other legitimate news organizations like the New York Times or Washington Post, or anything that's really mainstream, because before they put out something, they could also be a victim, but before they put out something, they do some vetting as well,
Okay.
because I'm sure at some point in the past they were victims as well.
Okay, good. Thank you. Now, since Trump took office in January 20th, 2025, this year, could you walk us through the most significant changes in immigration policies and border enforcement? Just the most significant that you know of.
Mind you, there's no change in law, right?
Okay.
Because there is no new immigration law.
Right.
But like what you said, what is the biggest issue that they're raising? So right now, if there is an order of removal, they will pursue that boldly. So meaning they have a record already that those whose removal order has been given by the judge, and per the record they're still here. If you are the person, plus if you have at some point some criminal records, it will expect that ICE will be knocking on your doors, or at least lurking in your backyard. If you have criminal records, or violent criminal, or if you got involved in drug problems, and there is a deportation order, and you're still here, they'll be going after you.
Do you anticipate more changes in immigration policies or visa rules, or do you anticipate stricter requirements for admission in the next few months?
Absolutely, there's no question about it. I expect that the immigration officers, that the ICE or the Border Patrol would be more they will scrutinize more those coming in. One case in point, social media. Right. So they can especially during the interview, they can ask for your social media account. They can look into that. They can they can look at what you've done, and that could be the basis for either revocation of your visa, denial of your application, or being removed if they found out that you are deportable alien. They are using AIs, so don't think that nobody knows. They're not gonna know that. How could they know me, there's like 300 million more in the United States. I'm just one in this tiny town. You know, they're using AIs. They're using they are capable of regionalizing. So if you live in this area, maybe I'm not talking of experience, but I can only talk of technological capability. You know, maybe because they divide, right? So maybe the regional command here or the regional office here are responsible for looking people that are here, and it goes through the system. And it's not just, remember, they now collaborate with different law enforcement agencies. So the Homeland Security, the FBI, the CIA, the CISA, name it. You know, the intelligence agencies of the United States are working with their AIs or with their technology to know who you are, right? To know who's trying to be here, or to know the people that are here. So don't be surprised if you thought you are not known and they know you. Are there privacy issues? Absolutely. You know, it's been raised over and over. But the point here is they're watching us.
Thank you, Mayor, because that's very, I think, a very important information, and I hope our viewers would now be more careful with their social media posts.
Absolutely. You know, we're not trying to fearmonger, right? Because like what I said, you know, I mean, your social media is your social media, right? You're proud of what you're doing. That's why you put it out, right? Otherwise, if you're hiding, you're not going to put it in your social media.
Correct.
But the point here is, there is now accountability, right? You know, you do something, you say something, that could be you could be accountable. Of course, I'm not trying to say that the free speech is being trumped.
Right.
You can express your disagreement. Just don't use fighting words. Just don't just don't say something that could be viewed as terrorist threat, or that you are a danger to the community. Whether I disagree or agree with that kind of policy, I'm just talking of the reality, right? So that's why you heard that, you know, those people that are even permanent resident or in student visa, they did something, they said something, and then the government were going after them. Do I agree with that? Probably not, right? Because it's an expression of free speech. But if you don't want to be in that situation, think twice.
I hope you guys in the audience, you heard what he said, and be careful with your social media posts. You can rewind so you can hear it again, but this is primarily the reason why I started this podcast. I wanted to share not just trending topics, but also helpful tips for us, some information which we can use to protect ourselves, or which can be good for ourselves. And having said that, I'd like to request you guys, as my viewers, if you find value in this podcast, I'd like to request 4 things, and I call them LCSS. If you like this podcast, hit the like button, the thumb up button. C, put a comment with your reaction or suggestion. S, subscribe to this channel so you can be notified and you can view new podcasts or new episodes and my old episodes. And most importantly, S, share this video and my podcast to your friends and family. Thank you. Just a reminder. Now back to the interview. Mr. Mayor, have you noticed changes or any change in public attitude towards immigration since Donald Trump was inaugurated in January?
Well, when you say attitude,
were people more aware now?
Well, if you look at the statistics, you know, they said that the number of tourists that wants to visit the United States has gone down. It's just so interesting that I saw that at least in Canada there's about 21% drop. Some other say people from Europe between it could be 7% to 10%. Those are so those are the numbers of the tourists that are coming in. In terms of course, the immigration, the green card, there is retrogression. So we do not know yet because the number of the people that are coming here is based on the visa availability. So really, in terms of those people that are coming here, there is absolutely an impact. Now, in terms of perception, I would say, of course, that people are more careful now with what they're doing because they don't want to lose their status and be vulnerable. For those who lost their status, there is a spike in inquiry, at least in my office, and from what I've heard with other attorneys, that there are people who are trying to find out what their options are. Are they still available? Are there still options available for them to be able to obtain status? Despite losing their status or despite accruing unlawful presence. So those are the things. So definitely, the immigration has become a major issue now in the United States during the Trump administration.
Now, has that turned Americans, not all, but more Americans start to resent the arrival of foreigners because of what's going on? Because of these statistics about criminals or illegal crossers, illegal people coming in. Has the American public start to hate the arrival of foreigners?
I think I think generally speaking, nobody likes Democrats, Republicans alike. Nobody likes people that are here with criminal records. That's a fact. If the other side are saying, oh, the Democrats love it or the Republicans love it or whoever, those are fake news.
Okay.
Because nobody likes bad people in their backyard. Now, if you want to politicize this, you blame it to someone else, right? Oh, they love the criminal, they want to protect the criminals. Not true. There's nobody like them. But maybe one party is more accommodating to immigrants than the other. That could be true. Now, whether those immigrants sometimes ended up being bad people could be true, right? Doesn't mean you like them, but they ended up bad, right? So, but the statistic says also that majority of immigrants are good people and help the economy. So, there is a balance, right? So immigrants are generally good. They want to come here. They wanna work. They want to contribute to society. A lot of Fortune 500 companies are started by immigrants. The richest people on earth, Musk himself is an immigrant. The wife of the president is an immigrant. There are great immigrants that are coming here in the United States. Jeff Bezos, the next guy, is an immigrant. Some founders of Google are immigrants, and a lot of talents and skills are brought by immigrants. So you cannot say immigrants are bad people. We love good immigrants and great immigrants, not just as person, as skilled worker, but as an investor, right? On the other hand, there are people who come here with bad intentions because there is a great business here, right?
Yeah.
So that's the nature, right? You don't go to rural areas when there are no activities because your business, your bad business will not thrive. You want to deal drugs. You want to deal drugs with there's a lot of people. You want to do something illegal. You want to do in areas where there are customers, right? Oftentimes that happens in big cities. That's why it gives a bad name, right? And we want to remove those people. We want to prosecute with those people. But it's not just the fault of one party, in my opinion. You want to politicize it, you can say whatever you want. But that's why we need better laws, we need better prosecution, and we need more judges, immigration judges, to weed out these bad people, or to process the applications quickly, so that we can move quicker and help the economy and help the community. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. That was good. I agree with you, Mayor. Now, have you noticed if changes in the labor market and technology has affected immigration policies and visa needs?
Oh yes, one example, according to report and statistics, there are at least more than 1 million shortages, maybe more, in at least in healthcare industry, particularly the nurses. We don't graduate more nurses to that level to fill the gaps. We don't have enough engineers to fill the gaps to fuel our progress in terms of artificial intelligence,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of manufacturing, in terms of engineering, in terms of healthcare. We have tons of good work, good available work that the Americans people do not perform because we don't produce enough of them. Imagine we're educating the best engineers in the world, in the areas of information technology, in the areas of cybersecurity, in many areas, but we don't have a program to keep them stay here, because after a 1 year of on-the-job practical training, what we call the OPT or OGT, they're gonna leave the country and go back to their country. We educate them for 2-3 years in the best universities. We train them, we send them back to compete with the United States. So we lose our competitive advantage. So I think what we have, and I think even the president and himself, Mr. Mas, has advocated for those people that have engineering degrees, doctoral degrees, staple a green card and give it to them, because those are the people that we need. They come here, they contribute to the economy, they pay hundreds of thousands of US dollars coming from their country, bringing them here, paying the universities, and they're fully paid, unless they're really scholar. But most of these people, they're not entitled to any governmental benefits, so it's coming from their own money. So they rent their apartments, they go to their dormitories, they pay, they shop. So they brought and contributed to the economy, and then now they get the knowledge. Our corporations needed those talents, but because of the visa unavailability, they got to go back to their country.
Now, do undocumented workers, and if you could explain what's an undocumented worker also, do undocumented workers have a role in the U.S. economy? And if yes, is that acknowledged in policy?
Well, anyone that are here, right? Whether you have illegal alien, or you're, as a common people will say, or if you are undocumented, you contribute to the economy. You pay your taxes if you're working.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if you don't work, how would you survive, right? So at some point, whether it's under the table or underground economy or whatever it is, you are part of the vibrant economic activity, right? You have people that are doing day labor, they work, they support the legitimate businesses. Maybe the workers don't have the documents, but they are able to do the job, right? Whether we will tolerate that or not is another policy decision. But what I'm saying is, yes, they have contributions economically, financially. They are the engine of growth, right? At sometimes they are able to use, of course, the government programs. As you know, whether in a federal or state level, most of these undocumented are not entitled to benefits. You cannot get social security. You cannot apply for social security. Even if you apply for security to get a job, just for you to be able to get a job, because they will require social security, but you are not able to use them. Because once you try to obtain the benefit, they're gonna look for your immigration documents. So once you don't have the immigration documents, you cannot get your even if you contributed, even if you retire working for 20, 30 years, you cannot get your contribution. You are not entitled to food stamp. You are not entitled to a pension, because the Social Security will require your immigration documents. So if you have nothing to produce, you are not entitled to it. So your money is stuck with the system. So in just going back to your question, I think economically they contributed a lot to the economy, more than what they get. It's like, because they pay a contribution, but you cannot pay them back if they ask for it, because the requirement is immigration documents.
Okay, so what do you think undocumented workers should do in case an immigration officer visits them at their home or workplace?
Well, it's always been there. There's been a lot of warning, and there's a lot of reminders that if you're in your own home, and if somebody, not just immigration officer, but any law enforcement agency that tries to enter your home without the search warrant or warrant of arrest, you're not obligated to let them in, right? So that's a fact, and people know that already. It's been everywhere. But now, if you're in the public and you're asked, you gotta identify yourself. But so in short, there's no point in resisting, because at the end of the day, they will get you. So rather than resist arrest, rather than running away, which put you in danger, I would say, just go calmly and contact your families so that they can look for immigration attorney to represent you, and find out whether you have some options or relief to be able to get your temporary liberty until the immigration judge finally say whether you stay in the United States or you gotta be deported, because there are no other relief. That's the only thing. That's the reality of life, right? If you're in the public, happen to going back, there's even if you are just a collateral damage or incident, like there's an operation in the place and you're not the target. It just so happened you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, and they say, sir, can I see your identification? And you don't have your identification, or you showed up your expired driver's license, and then say, okay, so this expired. Do you have any other ID? Do you have a person in your house that they can send your ID? A lot of things are going on that we don't know. Those things that we saw that reach the news and are sensationalized, they're just a fraction of what's going on. But there are so many things that are going on even before the Trump administration, I would say. So the deportation is not new. It's been ongoing. As a matter of fact, when President Obama came in, there were a lot of removals as well, but he was doing it quietly and humanely, I would say. So that's why it didn't reach that news that much.
Good. I think, or maybe I've heard, I don't know if it's accurate, that a lot of these arrests or visits by immigration officers happen after business hours.
Right.
And in that case, if an undocumented worker wants to contact Attorney Amatorio, are you accessible, or how can they get in touch with you after business hours?
Well, we have number one, we have like I say, we have a website. They can we have the number there. They can email, they can call us. The thing here is, I understand that after office hours, they say, what will happen.
Right.
I mean, even after office hours, when they are say, when they are picked up by the ICE, even if you chase them, you're not able to see them right away.
Oh, okay.
It's not like, it's not like a medical thing that, if you are picked up by the ambulance and brought to the emergency, that you go to the emergency and you see your patients, something like that. In immigration, it's different, right? So they pick you up. Sometimes, what happens is we don't even know where they are.
Okay.
So you call the ICE. I have a client. This is his name. It was picked up in this thing. Can you locate it? There is, in the website also of the ICE, where there is a detainee locator. So you can put in the name, if you know some information, and they can locate whether there's whether they brought the guy in Elizabeth, where there is a immigration detention, whether they are in, like there was a guy here that picked up in New York. It was brought to Louisiana, right? So there's a lot of things that's are in play. So it's not like, oh, you're gonna call me tonight and you're gonna go to the detention center tonight. You can't do anything anyway.
Okay.
Because you cannot. They're not gonna release him until the judge tells him, and the judge is not there. So
Okay.
there's no judge. There's no judge at night. So when the most important is you find out where he is. You locate the person so that you are able to talk to him and ensure that he is in good condition. That's what we do. Are you good? How's everything? Were you hurt? How did it happen? And then you tell the story, and then you find out whether there's something that you can do. Now, after getting all his information, then you can go to the judge to seek his release.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's good to know for our viewers. Now, based in your opinion, what has been Donald Trump's impact on immigration pathways such as green card, asylum, or the gold card?
Well, like what I've said, no law has changed.
Okay.
So the same path are available to everyone like before. The only difference is enforcement and strict scrutiny. So if you want to have if you have an application for immigration benefits, it is almost certain that it will be scrutinized. That's one. If there is an order of removal, in most instances, it will be enforced, right? Now, the only thing you said, you talk about the gold card, is he was trying to introduce investment visa card, which is if you have 5 million, if I remember, right? Then you can buy in your green card, put your 5 million and get your green card. That's been suggested, but there's really we're still waiting for regulations. There are some questions raised whether the Trump administration is allowed to do that, because it could be an act of Congress that could change immigration law on that part. Maybe he would say, I'm not changing, and I'm talking as an attorney, he's not changing immigration law, but they're just changing the policy on EB-5, which is investor's visa. That rather than the 1 million requirement or the 500,000 requirement, depending on your region where you would invest, he's putting up to 5 million with so using the same eligibility under Act of Congress, he would make a procedure different under the Homeland Security.
How about asylum? Has he had an impact on the asylum process?
Oh yeah, absolutely, because asylum is discretionary.
Right.
He probably would not remove asylum as a law, because there is a law that requires the United States to honor refugee seekers or asylum seekers. But whether he would approve your application or not is discretionary on the part of the judges. So if you impose a stricter measure, you're allowed to do that as a matter of discretion, right? So you could approve 1 million asylum, or you could approve 100,000 asylum. Those are two big differences. But he didn't change the law.
Right.
He just changed the interpretation. So there is liberal interpretation and a strict implementation.
Good distinction. Thank you. Now, the last question. My second to last question on immigration is: if you had the ear of the President of the United States, what would you tell him about immigration?
Ooh, it's number one. I don't have the ears.
I'm just saying if just assumption.
And I wanna clarify or say that whatever I say here, these are all personal opinion,
Correct. Opinion.
right?
Yeah.
I'm not speaking as a mayor
Okay.
of the town, and I'm not speaking as a member of the Democratic Party.
Got it.
I'm speaking as a plain public, as a private citizen,
Mm-hmm.
and these are all my personal opinion,
Yeah.
right? So that just a disclaimer.
Mhm.
So, but what I would say is, if I have the ears of the president, I would say, Mr. President, I know that immigration is a big issue, and you are passionate about it, and I respect that. However, I would say, let's do it humanely. Let's say that immigration impacts not just the country, not just the economy, but it impacts family. It impacts kids. It impacts people that are here that may have some transgression in the past, but they have paid for their mistakes, or these are there are, when you talk of immigration, there are people that are either supported you, supported the church, supported the community, but at some point something happened with their stay here. And remember, America is like a hill, it's a star in a hill, right? A lot of people looks up to America. So you cannot blame people to be wanting to go to the United States for greener pasture without knowing what's in here. They want a good life. They want a better life. So that's why they're here. So I agree that some people that come here for bad intentions, but I would say majority of the people that come to the United States, they want here because they want a better life, they want a greener pasture, or they admire the United States so much. So there are a lot of people. So now if there are people that needs to be removed, I agree, but we have to do it humanely. We have to do it under the rule of law.
Okay, one more question before we go on a break. How can a lawyer help in protecting immigrants' legal rights? Just the high level.
I would say, as an attorney, give them everything that they need to know about what rights they have as an immigrant, or even though those fell out of status or lost their status, they still have rights, right? And I think as an immigration attorney, they should let their clients know about that. Secondly, is to provide good advice, to provide what are the options they can obtain. And thirdly, is when it seems very, very difficult and risky, is tell them the truth. It's not worth risking staying here and fighting this, because number one, especially those people that are not in good health condition, detention may not be suitable for them, and they don't know whether it's 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, because it could become fatal, for some people with conditions. So, or also it could be so expensive, but you don't want to spend hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of money, but you know it's only gonna benefit the pocket of an attorney rather than the family who should be enjoying the benefit that they work for.
Thank you. That was good answer, Mr. Mayor. Let's take a break, folks. Let's take a break and we'll be back. Don't go away. Thank you.